Don't allow the flak to worry you. It's merely to break up your formation. Now, if you get in any trouble up in this area, remember you can always board sweep. Get on. It's neutral country. And it's close over there.
Could be rough. I don't think it'll be too bad. And whether it's easy or rough, I'll be sitting out in front, taking the whole works in.
The main briefing over, the pilots, navigators, bombardiers, radio operators, gunners, receive separate specialized briefings. These briefings are very technical and very thorough, and are held so that every member of the combat crew will understand exactly what he can expect and what is expected of him. Any lack of thoroughness here might very well result in the failure of a mission. As dawn breaks over the English countryside, it finds the ground crews still working grimly in an effort to get every plane in the air that is scheduled to be dispatched. These men take as fierce a pride in their planes as do the air crews. To each of them, it is a personal tragedy, reflecting in some way on their capabilities when their airplane is forced to turn back without having completed its mission, or when they have been unable to get an expected plane ready in time for a mission. It's getting on to the time when the combat crews go to their planes. Here they are in the crew room, putting on their flying clothes. Clothes and equipment especially constructed to ward off the intense sub-zero cold which they will encounter so shortly. All air crew members receive escape kits containing equipment that will help them get back to safety if they are forced down in Germany or in occupied territory. The pilots, co-pilots, navigators and bombardiers are also issued battle folders containing the maps which will be of such vital importance to them in the prosecution of the mission. The men turn in all personal papers and valuables, which might serve to give the enemy information in case of capture. Some of the crew members turn to their chaplain, whose ministrations are always available to the men of the bomber bases. So changeable is the weather in the European theater that sometimes widely varying conditions will be found on fields only a few miles from each other. now the last briefing of all. The final intimate conference around each airplane as the pilots recheck the details of the mission with their crews. Crew members have ceased to exist as individuals. They are now 10-man teams, and on the excellence of their teamwork will depend the success of the operation. Perimeters of 20-odd fields of the 8th Air Force, more than 400 forts and liberators, with their 4,000 crew members, taxi for the takeoff. Plane of each squadron, upon becoming airborne, proceeds for about 90 seconds. It banks sharply to indicate its turning point, then goes into a slow left turn. Each successive plane in the element turns as soon as the pilot sees the plane in front of him turn. The element of 3 planes levels off at 1,000 feet and returns parallel to the takeoff runway at a distance of about 2 miles. Here the elements start to assemble into squadrons of 6. Continuing to circle the field, the squadrons then go to 2,000 feet, where the group assembly takes place. This accomplished, the group now moves on to the combat wing assembly point. The combat wing having been assembled, they now move on to make rendezvous with the rest of the task force. In this case, another combat wing. This plane from the force which is to attack Anklam is now approaching the Danish coast, and the formation is subject to enemy attack at any moment. It is now 10:30 hours, and Denmark has been penetrated to some distance without any great opposition as yet. So far, there has been only some light and inaccurate flak at the coastline.
Some flank guns have opened up on us.
From 10:30 on, the Anklam formation has to contend with constant German fighter attack from all levels and all clock positions. During this time, the gunners aboard the fortresses knock down fighter after fighter. However, the gunnery of the forts, no matter how sensational it may be, is only to ensure the successful performance of the mission. It is not the job or purpose of forts or liberators to seek out action with enemy fighters. They merely defend themselves against enemy fighter attack so that they can destroy their target and bring their crews back safely to their home bases. An anxious moment comes now for the lead navigator and bombardier. The formation is approaching the initial point. That is the point where the wing will turn off and make its bombing run on the target. Upon proper navigation to this point may rest the success of the entire mission.
Pilot to left waist gunner. We're over the IP. Release flares. Waist gunner to pilot. Roger.
Once the combat wing has reached the IP, it breaks up into 3 component groups, for the wing formation is too unwieldy for a unit bombing operation. As the IP is reached and the lead airplane of the lead group is about to make the turn, it fires 2 red flares, spaced 5 seconds apart. Then the group makes its turn onto the run-up. The low group goes on straight ahead for 20 seconds, then makes its turn. The high group proceeds for 20 seconds beyond the low group's turn, then it turns onto the run-up. The most critical defensive period in the mission has begun. The wing, to accomplish most efficiently its primary purpose, the bombing of the target, has sacrificed its mutual defensive firepower, and the groups are thrown on their own. Now the crucial moment is almost here, the moment around which the entire mission revolves.
Pilot to bombardier. Your ship. Bombardier to pilot. Roger. Bombardier to crew. Bombay doors open. Pilot to radio operator. Camera on.
bomb bay doors open, the group is committed to its attack. No evasive action may be taken until the bombs are away. And at this time, the formation is most vulnerable to attack, both from flak and enemy fighters. At Marienburg, an hour later, the second task force comes over the target.
Bombs away.
The third task force comes over its target at Danzig.
Bombs away.
The fourth and fifth task forces arrive over the harbor area of Gdynia.
Bombs away. Bombs away on primary at 1142 hours.
Yes. Sir, in addition to the Anklam, which was attacked at 11:51, Marienburg was attacked at 13:05.
It is standard procedure for the group leader to inform Bomber Command the moment the target has been attacked. Bomber Command, in turn, promptly informs the commanding general of the 8th Air Force.
Later, I have the additional information. I reported to you that Anklam was attacked. All primaries were attacked. We received strike messages on all primaries. Danzig at 13:07, Marienburg at 13:05, and Gdynia at 13:11. Yes. Yes, sir. I'll advise you as soon as they land.
After getting bombs away and closing the bomb bay doors, the groups can now defend themselves again, at least to the extent of evasive action against the flak and fighter attack. The lead group flies a straight course for 15 seconds before turning off to the rally point. The lead group then proceeds to the rally point at an indicated airspeed of 155 miles per hour, making S-turns meanwhile to permit the trailing groups to catch up. The lead group crosses the rally point at a height 1,000 feet lower than bombing altitude. The succeeding groups will close with the lead group as quickly as possible to regain the defensive combat wing formation. The following groups need not necessarily pass exactly over the rally point in regaining wing formation. In the meanwhile, The marauders take off to fulfill their part in the day's operation. They bomb the aerodrome at Woensdrecht, one of the most important of the enemy's fighter bases. This blow by the medium bombers is timed so as to provide the maximum interference with the enemy's capacity to intercept our withdrawing heavy bombers. Last off are the fighters. Their great speed will enable them to reach the Leeuwarden district in a short time, sweep the area clear of enemy fighters, then give the heavy bombers withdrawal support from the enemy coast home. At the fields, it's getting on towards the most nervous of all times, the estimated time of return. Everyone who stays behind sweats out this period at the end of each mission. Here at the control tower, at the dispersal areas, at the Red Cross, at the Officers' Club, everywhere on the field, the one thing paramount in everyone's mind is that the group is due back. Went out to attack the target. How many have returned? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, 16. Flares dropped from aircraft signal the presence of wounded aboard. These airplanes are given priority in landing. firemen are home, but their job isn't over yet. Before they can go to their billets for a well-earned rest, they must first undergo one of the most important phases of any mission, interrogation. It is highly important to question the crews at the first possible moment after the mission, while their impressions and memories are still fresh. The hungry crews are fed enough to hold them until they can be interrogated and get to their regular chow. These men are from the groups that went to Anklam.
What time did you go over the target?
At 11:43 hours, we were in at 12,000 feet.
Did you get your bombs on the target?
Yeah.
What about enemy fighter officers?
Well, that's something we could not discuss.
Really? Well, let's get some of the details. Where did it begin, Paul?
They first jumped us at 10:30 there just off the Danish coast.
And how long did the attack continue?
They stayed with us to the target and until 13:27. Then at 13:45 we had another group attack that stayed until 14:05. We had a couple more attacks, and the last one was at 15:26 just off the Danish coast coming out.
And about how many enemy fighters did you see?
Well, I don't know how many of them might have been repeated, but I saw 60 or 70 myself.
I couldn't keep track of them, sir, but I counted about 65. I stopped trying to count when I got to 50, sir.
Well, do you think it'd be accurate to say then that your ship saw between 65 and 80 enemy aircraft?
Yeah.
That's right.
What type of enemy aircraft did you encounter?
Well, from what I could see from the tail, they threw the book at us. FW-190s, ME-109s, 110s, 210s, Dorniers, even Ju-87s and 88s.
Would you characterize these attacks as determined?
Brother, you can say that again.
What about planes?
I knocked down two. They were making attacks about 5 o'clock level.
Yeah, I saw them. One of them blew up in the air, and the other one went down in flames. The pilot of the second one bailed out. That was at 11:44. We were right over the IP.
Were any other guns firing at these planes?
No, sir. These were my babies.
How would you describe the flak en route to the target?
From the coast of the target, it was meager and inaccurate as to height and deflection. Over the target, it was still meager, but pretty accurate as to height and deflection.
Is that how the rest of you fellows would describe it? You see anything else?
Yeah, there's a new airport about 2 miles below Danzig there, south of Danzig.
What'll it look like?
Pretty large airport with grass runways and a lot of construction at the south end.
I seen another one there at Puck. It seemed like to be building runways and some buildings, new buildings like this. Might not be hangars.
Okay. Now, how about military installations? Did you see any of those?
Well, south of Takeoff in East Prussia, we saw some installations that might have been fortifications.
They were large rectangular buildings with red tops.
Yeah, there were 2 rows of 4.
4 buildings each?
Yes.
Good deal. Now, you see anything else?
As soon as interrogation of the men is finished, the interrogation forms are checked and general statistics on the group's part in the attack are compiled.
All right, let's get going on this report.
Okay. B, number of aircraft dispatched.
20.
C, number of aircraft attacking primary targets.
20. Hello, I want the A2 duty desk. Hello, this is Norgan 492. Got flash teletype report for you. You ready?
The organizational flow which we have observed throughout this picture has now begun to operate in reverse. Here in the dark room, the strike photos of the targets brought back by the returning planes of the group are developed and printed with all possible speed so that experts of Bomber Command can assess the damage done. Coming in from planes of every group participating in the various raids and interpreted and appraised by trained photo interpreters, these pictures will give Bomber Command an excellent idea as to exactly what parts of the various targets were hit and how severely. Here, as seen in these pictures taken the following day by photo reconnaissance planes, severe damage has been inflicted on all the major and most of the minor buildings of the Arado factory at Anklam. This is a strike photo showing how Danzig looked during the attack. Very extensive damage has been suffered in the harbor area. Here is an annotated PRU picture of Gdynia as it appeared after the attack. A near miss is seen on the liner Deutschland type. Atlantic liner Stuttgart does not appear in this picture, although she was seen afire and in the hands of tugboats immediately after the attack as these strike photos reveal. Aside from the Stuttgart, several ships in the South Basin have been sunk or damaged, including the liner Oceania. Shore installations are also heavily hit. At Marienburg, the PRU photo discloses that the damage was exceptionally severe, almost every building having been destroyed or seriously affected. General Arnold has characterized this attack as the greatest example of precision bombing on record. Other targets will be as thoroughly destroyed.